We're now going to look at constraints, beginning with position. If I constrain the cone to the cube, notice the dialog box pops up and we get this little icon inside here saying pos. That is because I have relations on. If I turn it on, turn it off, you can see like so. Within the dialog box we can activate and deactivate the constraint. All constraints live under the object, under the kinematics, and there's a little folder underneath here to see the constraint. We can have multiple constraints underneath here. We have a constraint compensation button, so if you actually want to offset it, maybe I'm going to do it in Y, just pop it down a bit like so, you can see that is a reflection of this here. So maybe I want to do it at say -5, something like this. So I can either use the slider inside the constraint box, or I can use the constraint compensation and just do it manually. We also get the offset inside here, as well as the direction. If you actually select if I were to close this off and select, as you can see here, not the object, but the constraint link in the relations and hit enter, you'll bring up the constraint dialog box inside here. It is also the same case inside the schematic inside here. So if I were to move this like so, I can select it. If I close this now, hit enter, and again it pops up like so. So what do we have here? Well, we have a blend weight. A blend weight is similar to the active when it's at 0. It's temporarily it's off, as you can read here. But it's also if we have two constraints and how it will be blended between them. In addition, we have the constraining object attach point. So if I were to say the object is affected by orientation, I actually have to do it for both with something other than a 0 value. So if I'm just going to pop this off here, so if I did -2.5 like so, and if I did 2.5 like that, we're going to go back to the original settings here. The reason I'm doing both is because I actually want the coupling to come into effect. If I were to take these off temporarily and I were to, actually I'll go back one here, and I were to rotate my object, you see that it doesn't affect my cone because I haven't turned on the object's orientation. If I do this now, and now when I do it, you notice how it is actually being affected, not unlike an oil pump inside here. So this is a rigid constraint. Additionally, we also have a soft coupling. So you notice the difference inside here. So some constraints will be better active with a soft coupling and the others with a rigid. There is also an up vector tab, and this is for the constraining object. So now if I were to say create a new up vector here, there it is, and it's turned on to active, I can position it like so. If I go back to my tab here, I'm actually going to turn these off because I no longer want the constraining object to help constrain its orientation. I want the up vector. So the constrained object with its up vector, at the same time it's being controlled positionally by this object here. If I were to add another constraint, maybe I go and just get a disk, that's fine. I'm going to pop this down here. When I constrain the position, made an error there, I constrain the position to the disk, what's happening is if I have two constraints of the same type, it's going to take the last one that was applied, because both of them currently have a blend weight of 1 or 100%. If I now reduce this, you notice I have blended the positional constraint between the cube and between the disk. If it were at 50, it would be even between the two. But that's only on the one. What I need to do is select the other and put that at 50 as well, or 0.5. So bear in mind what we're looking at is that I've also an additional 5 units here in compensation. If I just zero these values out, you probably can see a bit better. If I look at the front view, and now we can see the final result.